In 2006, Children of Men predicted societies that stopped having children would do very specific things. And if you look at South Korea, Japan, North America, and most of Europe right now, all of these trends have already begun. You see, the film understood something about human psychology that demographers are only now beginning to identify. Society doesn't collapse when people die. It collapses when people stop being born. And today, every country that's currently experiencing population decline is making the exact same choices this film predicted. However, people just don't realize they are most likely experiencing the start of an apocalypse because the changes are happening too slow to notice. But the scariest thing about this film isn't that it predicted a low global birth rate. It's that it predicted exactly how we'd emotionally respond to it. Today, I will show you exactly what I think this movie gets right about a future where people stop having kids. But let's start with a quick recap of the movie just in case you don't remember it or have not seen it yet. The film follows Theo Farron, a former activist turned jaded bureaucrat living in Britain, which markets itself as the last functioning government on Earth. 18 years ago, for reasons nobody understands, women around the world simply stopped being able to get pregnant, and no children have been born since. So the youngest person alive is 18 years old, which made him a reluctant celebrity. But the film opens with news that he had just been stabbed to death for refusing to sign an autograph, and the entire planet mourns like they lost a religious figure. Most countries have descended into complete chaos, civil wars, and mass suicide. Britain maintains a facade of order through authoritarian control, rounding up refugees and immigrants into cages. But underneath that facade, everything is falling apart. And Theo, like everyone else, has accepted that humanity is just slowly circling the drain. He goes to work, he drinks too much, and waits for it all to end. Then, his ex-wife Julian, who is now leading an underground resistance group, recruits him for a mission. A young refugee woman named Key is miraculously pregnant, and they need to get her to a scientific group called the Human Project that might be able to figure out how she's pregnant and save humanity. So Theo, who stopped believing in hope years ago, decides that this time, hope might just be worth fighting for. That's the setup. Now, let's talk about how accurately this film predicted our current reality. My first point might surprise you. It's when suicide becomes a product. Did you know that there are something like 15 countries that have legalized assisted dying? And almost all of them became legal very recently, within the last few years. And all of them are in countries that have a declining birth rate. And there are more countries than ever on the brink of legalization, with countries like Canada already providing it as a service direct from the Canadian government. And in Children of Men, the British government has a program called Quietus, which provides free assisted suicide drugs marketed like a luxury product, with soothing imagery and the calming slogan, "You decide when." It's framed as a compassionate service, giving people control over their inevitable death. Now, compare it to the adverts used by the Canadian government to promote their identical service called MAID. And here's the darkly brilliant insight from the movie. The government and Children of Men are not trying to fix the infertility crisis anymore. They're not heavily investing in research or offering hope. This is why the only pregnant woman in the movie has to risk her life in order to get help and assistance from an underground research group. No, the government in this movie are just focused on making the decline as comfortable as possible. They've accepted extinction and moved to the hospice care phase of civilization. And this is already today's reality. If we go back to my Canadian example, their fertility rate is currently 1.25 children per woman, which is well below the replacement level of 2.1. But the Canadian government is not offering free egg freezing for young women. Publicly funded IVF is incredibly limited and unavailable to most Canadians. And so is government assistance for childcare costs. But guess what is absolutely free and widely available? MAID. And there are more and more countries trying to institute something similar for their own populations. Just look at the countries that are on track to pass this type of legislation within the next few months. And that's the major official government response. Now, let's talk about another more visible symptom that's already happening on street level. Because when tomorrow disappears, society doesn't stop, it just changes what it optimizes for. Not growth, not innovation, not building something for the next generation. So people just start ignoring the collapse while chasing personal comfort. In the movie, you notice this as trash. It's everywhere, piled on sidewalks, stuffed into corners, blowing through abandoned buildings. And it's not post-apocalyptic rubble. It's just regular garbage that nobody's bothering to collect anymore. Buildings are crumbling, paint is peeling off, infrastructure is falling apart, and nobody's fixing any of it. Watch how the film establishes this in the opening scenes. Theo goes through London, and the city is visibly in decay. Graffiti covers almost every surface, and large parts of the city look like shanty towns. Violence is so normalized that he needs to go through airport-style security just to go up to his office. Everything looks like it's been degrading over many years of minimal to no maintenance. Now, compare it to most modern Western cities today. In fact, the London presented in the movie is not a million miles away from the London of today. And here's what makes this so chilling. The world in Children of Men didn't end, and society still functions. People are still going to work, still buying coffee, the buses still run, and society still functions in a technical sense. It's just that everyone has collectively stopped caring because why fix anything if nobody is going to inherit it? But people don't just give up on buildings and roads. They give up on something deeper, and you can see it in what they replace children with: pets. Pretty much every home and every central character has a pet of some sort in this movie. The film never explicitly comments on it. It just shows you that in the absence of children, many people will redirect their nurturing instincts toward animals. And this has parallels with the dramatic rise in pet ownership today. In the continent of Europe, approximately 49% of people have at least one pet. The UK, 60%, Canada, 65%, the US, 66%, and in Australia, it's estimated to be an incredible 73% of households. And the numbers continue to rise year on year. We have people pushing dogs in strollers, buying them toys and clothes. Pet stores now have the same baby-focused advertising language you'd see in a maternity shop. People use parental language to talk about their pets as children, and dogs and cats are treated with a level of care and expense that you would treat any family member. This transition from a world that nurtures pets to one that ignores people is reflected in the cinematography. Because the film doesn't just tell you about this emotional numbness, it forces you to participate in it. And the cinematography mirrors this collective dissociation by changing the way we see violence. Most films would show you the horror of this society through dramatic moments, with big emotional musical scores and horrified reactions. But Children of Men does the opposite. It shows you people watching horror through windows, on TV screens, from a distance, and feeling absolutely nothing. There's a scene where Theo walks through a train platform right past refugees in an open cage and doesn't acknowledge any of it. The entire world has developed this dissociative glaze, the ability to see atrocities and just keep moving. When a high-ranking government official is asked how he is able to overlook the overwhelming violence and general decay of society, his response is,
I just don't think about it.
and right up until Theo commits to helping the pregnant woman, he's just like everyone else, observing from a safe distance. But then he decides Key's survival matters, and that decision removes every layer of protection between him and the horror. He becomes trapped in real time without any escape, and so are we. Notice how Children of Men uses these long, unbroken takes that trap you in real time with the characters. There's no cutting away to give you relief, no high-impact musical score to tell you how to feel. The camera just follows Theo through chaos, through violence, through moments of profound horror, and you can't escape. You have to stay present, just like he does. And that's exactly what the characters in this world are experiencing. They're trapped in an eternal present with no future to orient towards, no reason to believe their actions have consequences beyond today. And this brings us to where the film's most devastating prophecy lands. This isn't some distant dystopian nightmare. It's showing you the logical endpoint of a trajectory we're already on. Birth rates are collapsing across the world. Political and financial systems are optimized for the older generation at the expense of the young. And the final chilling diagnosis is that the apocalypse won't be a sudden disaster. It will most likely be a slow, dirty, depressing slide into terminal existential fatigue. And the film leaves you with the understanding that the question isn't whether we'll face this future, it's whether we will recognize it when we're already living in it.